Make some noise for your host, Kid Copious.
What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in the bunker, Purple State Party. You know what we're representing here. America, the center, common sense, and these things. Puppers. So, alright, let's just jump right into it. You know, kind of a sad week. Lost a couple of icons this week. You know, Gilbert Gottfried passed away. And, we've lost Norm Macdonald, Bob Saget, and Gilbert Gottfried, all, not this year, but within this last year. And, it feels like comedy's a dying art now. Everybody has to be so careful, as we saw with, Chris Rock, One joke, can get you slapped, can get you canceled. And, that's not a fun world to live in. We have to be able to laugh about things. Laughter is what brings people together. Jokes, show that you care. I mean, if you don't care, if you don't have love in your heart, you're not going to say some of the things that comedians say, because you're gonna. I guess the easiest way to say it is you'll be revealing your true nature. I make a lot of jokes myself. And that's one of the ways that I ease people's, concerns about my white privilege, I guess. I don't know. But, Jeff Ross said that we roast the ones we love. And I think we need to remember that in comedy, that nobody's trying to spread hate by telling jokes. It's a very ineffective way to do it. Whatever. That didn't come out very well. The other icon that we lost is Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, I don't know why, but I guess there's a dispute over the rights to the character. And in upcoming Pac-Man games, reboots, things like that, there will not be a Miss Pac-Man. There's going to be a Pac-Mom. I don't know. I mean, hey, it's 2022. Shouldn't that be Pac-birthing person? But yeah, the last time we saw her was in 2014. I actually have a Miss Pac-Man machine here in the studio. Growing up, I went to great lengths to play Miss Pac-Man. One of those lengths was they had it at a local hotel way back in the days when they had paper registration sign-in sheets, And we'd wait until the person was distracted or left. We would go up, and we'd look at the reservation book, and we would get a name and a room number. And if we were stopped while playing Miss Pac-Man in the hotel's arcade, we had a name and a room number. And, that's just how we did it. So it's going to be sad to know that future generations may not know who Miss Pac-Man is. It's an awesome game, I always loved chasing down a pretzel. I don't know what it was. It was so satisfying about the pretzel. But I love the pretzel. So in other news, Elon Musk is offered by Twitter for, I believe it was $54.20 a share. Something $4.20 a share. Maybe $44.20 a share. I can't be bothered by numbers. But, his main impetus for it is to bring about a return to free speech in this country. And that goes back to what I was saying about jokes, We got to be able to discuss things, man. We got to be able to discuss them. We got to be able to laugh about them and discuss them. That's how we got the progress that we've seen so far. And now it's turning into just basically fascism, where if you don't agree with the left-wingers, the left-wing propaganda machine shut you down. They shadow ban you. I'm sitting here. I'm not advocating for the right or the left. I'm advocating for the center. But I face the same things. I mean, I see it when I tell people where to go to view my videos, and they're buried. And I'm just trying to make a small amount of difference. I'm just trying to bring people around to common sense. I'm not trying to spread hate. I'm not trying to tear down one side or the other. I'm trying to tear down both sides. I'm trying to call them both out. I really like this one. I'm going to leave Twitter if Elon Musk takes over as the new I'm going to move to Canada if Trump wins. And that's the kind of situation that we find ourselves in this country. We're so divided. We're so divided. And even though, as we're going to see, polls don't really support the divide, it feels that way because we literally have propaganda machines out there just trying to keep us right and left. And, Twitter provides an opportunity for people to discuss things and maybe come to some common ground. And maybe that's what scares both the Republicans and the Democrats, is they don't want us moving away from those two camps. And if that's what the politicians are scared of, then it must mean that that's the right path. I mean, this is America, and I think this goes for America and all the countries of the world. The citizens need to do what scares the government, because the government is supposed to work for the citizens, not the other way around. And that's certainly not how it feels in California. That's certainly not how it feels under Brandon here. It feels like we're working to pay taxes. I don't know. So, the episode of the title being Ghost Hunters, that was alluded to Miss Pac-Man, because, she hunted ghosts, right? But also, Biden here. Biden makes deal with ghost in historic ghost gun compromise. It's scary to see this. A lot of people were triggered and frightened by Trump. I mean, come on. We've got a guy leading this country who does not seem capable anymore. And we're only a little more than a year in. And his replacement, Kamala Harris, she's as bad as he is. Neither one of them are competent. Neither one of them are willing to stand up for America and for what makes sense. They're absolutely placating the far left. And they don't care what their agenda costs us. They don't care that a lot of their goals are unachievable. They're going to waste our money on these goals, and then they're going to pass that loss onto us in the form of higher taxes by, hey, you tax corporations more, they're not going to pay as much. They're going to raise their price on goods and services. And quite frankly, I'm more on the side of the corporations than I am on the side of the government at this point. LA County votes to ban official travel to Texas and Florida over recent LGBTQ plus laws, okay? Now, again, this is not something that we really need. This is not something that any of us asked for, Hold on, I'm struggling here because I don't like this new photo viewer in Windows 11. But nobody asked for this. Whoa, that was good. Hold on, let me see if I can get back out of this. Great. All right, there we go. Technical difficulties. We don't elect these politicians to run one person's agenda, one minority's agenda. We want them to run the state in a way that benefits the most people. And, these kind of things end up costing. They always do. Whatever. Let's just move on. But they're not going to, they're still going to travel to Oklahoma, but they're banning all abortions there. I don't understand why Republicans, with all the problems we have right now in this country and in these states, why they're focused on this. Why? Why is it that they're working very working very diligently to push people left and right. They're making you make a choice with these kind of laws. And these laws are sick, and they're inhumane, and they just lead to bad things. You know? But here they go again, you know, as people are abandoning the Democratic Party because of the Biden policies, the Republicans turn around and outlaw abortion. So all the people who come over now want to go back. And all the people that are in the middle have to take one side or the other. It's a fucking racket. I'm going to skip that one. We had a tragic shooting on a New York subway. And, you know, this guy gets on, he pops some smoke and starts firing a gun. And when they put out the suspect descriptions on the left-wing media, they don't want to mention his color. They want to describe what he's wearing. They want to describe his height and his weight, but not the color of his skin, because that doesn't fit into their agenda. You see, they're putting their agenda ahead of public safety once again. Doesn't matter. It doesn't. It is what it is, you know? And then you go and you find out that on YouTube and other social media apps, he has been advocating violence against white people. But none of that was censored. If these roles were reversed and he was white, they would certainly be putting out the color of his skin. He did what he did. He is what color he is. There's nothing that can change that. But when you're looking for a suspect who opened fire on a crowded subway, it might be a good idea to give us a little more than that he was wearing a reflective vest. Because he probably isn't wearing the reflective vest. You know? And you even have black commentators flat out talking about the fact that he was a black nationalist. You have people of color speaking out against it, but yet you still want to try to shield America from the color of the shooter's skin. Do you not pay attention to what people are saying? Do you not pay attention to polls? Do you not pay attention to anything other than your stupid agenda? And this is what I'm talking about. You know, less than 10% of Americans see COVID as a serious crisis, yet they're plowing ahead. They want to have the breathalyzer to test for COVID. They still have mandates on planes. Philadelphia just put their mandate back in place. But only 10% less than 10% of Americans even care anymore. Biden's approval ratings are in the toilet. Voters like candidates who fund the police and expand U.S. oil production. But they don't want to do that because that's not their agenda. And they don't care what we want. Apologist press is raving mad for Biden, but Americans say otherwise. And again, they just simply ignore it. They ignore it. And the worst part is they then turn around and accuse people of ignoring the climate emergency or ignoring systemic racism. They're trying to drive a narrative. And I don't care what side is trying to drive the narrative. I'll be honest with you. I don't care if it's CNN or Fox News. The media is supposed to give us the facts, and then we make up our own mind. I found this one funny. Part of the Hunter emails revealed that Joe Biden was hating on Hillary Clinton. I think that's really funny. I mean, after 4 years of Trump doing a pretty good job and people just shitting all over him, I'm glad that there's shit being thrown the other way now. You know, when I first sat down earlier in this week to drum up ideas and what I wanted to cover for the show, one of the things that I wanted to cover was I wanted to plead with Governor DeSantis to not sign any abortion bills. And he did. And once again, we can clearly see what the problem is here. The Republicans are not trying to become moderate. The Democrats are not trying to become moderate. They're again appealing to the extremes and driving all of us middle thinkers to one extreme or the other. You're either with the Democrats or with the Republicans. And that's what they're doing with this shit. And the worst part is that they're just playing God with women's rights. And we're seeing it across the board. The trans issue, women's rights. The crime issue, that affects women. Okay? The abortion bans. That doesn't affect men, does it? No. Other than the fact that now if a man knocks up a girl, an abortion's off the table in some states. Well, so what's that going to lead to, folks? We already know what it's going to lead to. But the worst part is the women's rights. You know, I like to think up solutions. And I think one solution to some of the problems would be to expand our laws so that crimes against women carry their own separate penalty. Attacking old ladies should be worth more than attacking a rival gang member who's 19 and a boy. But that's a subject for another day because we got a lot of stuff to go. So earlier we were talking about them ignoring the polls. And this is one of the ones that to me really explains it. You know, it cuts across the disapproval of the president. You can see what's there. He's underwater with whites. But he has only 26% approval among Hispanic adults. And I'm beginning to think that Hispanics as a whole are probably the purple people. They seem to get it. But what's wild about all this is knowing that the Hispanic approval rating is at 26%. They think the way to fix it is handouts to illegal aliens and opening the border. And that's exactly why Hispanic voters disapprove of Biden. They're here in America. I've yet to find anyone of any Hispanic nationality from any Hispanic country that agrees with Latinx or agrees with open borders. But yet, they just keep running at it because that's their fucking agenda. Both sides are going to find, hopefully soon, that their agenda will be their death knell. Hopefully. So, speaking of people who are purple, or maybe now aren't purple, I think we really have to really cover this again. Because this is the kind of agenda shit that I'm talking about, where they just do what they want and assume there's not going to be any consequences because XYZ. So, you have BLM here, who's running a charity, a nonprofit organization, supposedly to help black people. I mean, they help themselves, and they are black, so I guess there's some truth to it. But in amongst all of this stuff that we've been talking about, with these mansions that are being purchased and the illegalities of some of this stuff, what do they come out and say? Disclosure laws are triggering and unsafe. Ha! Isn't that great? They hide behind the B in BLM. They are a Marxist organization who would love to destroy America, have the Great Reset. I don't know what's going to change in the Great Reset. Okay? But when they are cornered, they just say things like that. It's triggering. Racist and sexist attack. Well, it's true. I mean, she is a woman and she is black. So, I mean, I guess if you attack them, it's racist and sexist. But asking them, what the hell are you doing with the money? That's racist? That's sexist? Really? Because we've done that to lots of people. We've done that to corporations. We've done that to nonprofits. We've done that to religious groups. Look, you're not allowed to take people's money and do whatever you want with it. There are rules to being a nonprofit. There's rules, and they apply to literally every nonprofit. But in your case, it's racist and sexist. So right now, a watchdog group is charging that the $6 million mansion was a violation of IRS laws. So that's what's got their hackles up. That's why they're saying it's racist and sexist. Because the National Legal and Policy Center said it's highly unusual the way that they purchased this mansion. They concealed it. They hid it. They tried to say, oh, nobody's living there. But then they filmed videos there and talked about living there. They've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And their only excuse is that it's racist and sexist. What other lies? She claimed BLM was insolvent. Yeah. They filed IRS paperwork. Oh, no, we're insolvent. We're not making enough money. Yet, their assets increased year after year after year, and they spent millions on travel, meals, and consultants, because that's how you hide stuff. If you want to give your brother $100,000, hire him as a consultant. Boom. See? It's a racket. Lots of these charities are rackets. A large percentage of these charities are rackets. But they're the ones right now that have their hand in the cookie jar, and we've caught them. Look at this. They sat there and they told the IRS when they applied for charity status in August of 2020 that it would use that their expenses were going to be $12 million in professional fees, but zero in occupancy expenditures. So they're not supposed to be living in the mansions. See, those are their own words. They could have told the IRS, the truth, that they needed to buy a place for them to live, I guess, but they didn't do it. But you notice, this one part right here I like. I want to be as privileged as a Black Lives Matter founder. Yeah, that built-in excuse. You can just hide behind it. We're going to skip that. Here's a picture of the mansion right there. I don't know how you're going to use that as a safe house. I've seen, but I won't repost, the Google Maps that show exactly where this mansion is. So not very good as a safe house. Probably not even good as an influencer house, because people can go there. Be nice. But more, we're just going to, yeah. So, we'll close it out with this. So there's forms that they have to fill out to disclose, where the money has been spent. And Colliers said it doesn't seem safe. This is like deeply unsafe. This is literally being weaponized against us, against the people we work with. We have been attacked and scrutinized for our financial activities. So in other words, just let me get this straight. Because you're black and you run a charity for black people, nobody should look at your finances. Huh. Wow. Huh. Okay. Except that black people are looking at it too. Ernest Owens, a journalist. Right there. They have been denied access, transparency, and follow-up from some of these Black Lives Matter leaders for years. Look, if you're doing good work and you're above board, then you should have no problem showing people your records. And it's required of you to show those records. The IRS wants to see them. The state of California wants to see them. Other states want to see them. Other Black Lives Matter chapters want to see them. But they're going to hide behind the B, and they're going to steal all the money. That's fun. So here's our March inflation numbers. That's wonderful. Coffee up 11%. That's great. Used cars up 35%. Me personally, I sold one of my used cars. Hey, if the market wants it, they can have it because they're paying a shit ton of money. I almost made back all my money on the damn thing. Gas up 48%. Electricity up 11%. I don't understand how people who make less money than me, and I don't make a lot, okay? I'm maybe lower middle class, maybe. I don't know how people are making it. I don't know how people are raising children right now. I'm glad that my daughter's older and not having to deal with public schools, not having to deal with all of the wants and needs. She's kind of a minimalist that way. But I don't see how people are doing it. 8.5% jump in March compared to last year. And look where it comes from. Higher energy prices that are translating to higher transportation costs. And it's like a broken record over here. This is exactly what I've been talking about. And then we exacerbate the situation by having an open border, which causes the Texas governor to order inspections at the border that screw up the supply chain even more. We have rules and regulations in California that screw up the supply chain even more. And they don't do anything. They don't care. I mean, you realize that they're doing nothing about these problems. They're more concerned with how are they going to make all the batteries for all the electric vehicles. Because that's their agenda. They don't care what we need. They only care about their agenda. They are going to send Veteran Affairs doctors to the border for the expected surge. They know that when he lifts Title 42, there's going to be a surge, so they want to send personnel from Veterans Affairs there to help out. I don't have it here, but vets are already waiting nearly a month to see a doctor, and Biden's administration is going to pull doctors to send them to the border to help out with the surge. If you know there's going to be a fucking surge, shut the goddamn door. If you're driving a car and it's a convertible and you know it's going to rain, I think you might want to put up the roof before you start driving. They know there's going to be a surge. They're not going to do anything about it. They're going to pull resources from our veterans to accommodate the illegal immigrants that they think are going to boost their poll numbers or their votes, while forgetting that illegal immigrants cannot vote. I don't understand them. I just don't understand them at all. I just don't get it. The Obama Treasury advisor said that Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID bill was an extraordinary mistake. Isn't that great? Because again, their agenda, right back to it, they don't care what we needed. They don't care what was best for the country. They don't care at all about the people who are working those fucking exhausting warehouse jobs to put food on the table for their kids. They don't care. They're going to buy votes with their stimmy checks, and then the rest of it's going into pipe dreams, man. Things we don't need. And now look where we are. We're headed towards a recession. So this is where ghost hunting also came in. Ted Cruz posting this. Anyone? Biden sticks out his hand and appears to shake thin air. And it certainly looks like he did. And then he just kind of turns his back to the crowd and wanders off. It is scary. But what's even more scary than our president looking like the confused senior that he is that he tried to blame 70% of the increase in inflation as the Putin price hike. They literally think that we are so stupid as to believe this. Prices were going up. Pure and simple. I'm sure the war in Ukraine has not helped, okay? But it's not 70% of the problem. The problem is that we're no longer energy independent. Refer back to what we were talking about a little while ago. Rising fuel costs, rising transportation costs, rising consumer prices. That's how it works. It's pure and simple. Giving that speech, too, he claimed that he was a full professor. He collected nearly $1 million over the last 4 years. Being given a vague role, teaching no regular classes. But there he is. And to polish it all off, he's going to do this. He's going to end Title 42. In the midst of all of the issues we're facing right now, we're looking at possibly 2.5 million illegal immigrants entering the country in the next year. He is doing nothing to stem that. In fact, he's doing everything he can to increase that number. Because the Democrats want, and I'm beginning to suspect the Republicans want hired help that they can abuse, that they can cheat and take advantage of. Either that or the plan is we're going to make these guys citizens, we'll get their votes, we'll make these guys citizens, and then they can do all the menial warehouse work and all the white people can go to college. Where are we going to find jobs and homes for these people? Where? So Abbott out of Texas, he put a bunch of them on a bus. They volunteered, put them on a bus and dropped them off in Washington, D.C. I mean, I get that it made some sense as a political protest. But people in the media just slam it as political rhetoric. They don't look at it as though there's actually a problem of any sort, you know? No, they're going to play along. Again, you want to see more agenda shit? California pushing for a 32-hour work week. And they're going to say, yeah, it's part of the pandemic-driven shift. So they're going to mandate that. I don't even know how this is going to work. I mean, if you're going to essentially slash workers' hours, the people at the bottom of the ladder are going to have their hours slashed to 32 hours. Okay, that's 8 hours a week, right? That's 32 hours a month. That is almost an entire week's paycheck that's going to disappear because companies aren't going to pay more for overtime. Let's not be stupid here. Companies, let's take Amazon. If you've got to get X amount of packages delivered in 40 hours, you're just going to have to get X amount of packages delivered in 32 hours. You're going to make less money. But they're probably going to crack the whip and make you produce the same amount of numbers. Who's going to be served by this? You're going to work less hours but more brutal hours? And it's only going to apply to companies with 500 employees or more? And so they say, okay, so they're going to give higher raises and time and a half pay to anybody who surpasses that cutoff. Dude, you're going to get in trouble if you surpass that, okay? They're not going to approve it. They're not going to approve that overtime. And they're trying to do this at the federal level now. And right here, this brainiac from Riverside thinks that it's going to amount to a 10% increase in pay? How? The only way this works is if you're going to pay people for 40 hours but only make them work for 32 hours. But guess what? The consumer, the end user, is going to have to make up the difference, which will drive inflation higher and higher. This will never pass. It's a job killer. But one of the interesting things here is they were talking about this, and they said, of course, the Democrats are going to complain about greedy corporations gouging the poor and the middle class. There's a rapidly growing disconnect with many progressives when it comes to understanding that a healthy, thriving private sector is necessary to generate the tax revenue that they need to spend. California is a prime example of that. We think that by driving factories out and reducing our greenhouse gases by whatever percentage, we've done something. No, we've just shifted That's what the corporations are going to do here. You're going to try to hit them with this 32-hour work week, and they're just going to shift the cost onto the end users. So Bill Maher sort of made news when he was talking to Joe Rogan, and he was talking about what might drive him off of the Democratic Party. And oddly enough, it's exactly one of the topics that Purple State hopes to address. He's talking about the Build Back Better package and even the Trump-era stimulus packages and how much of that money ends up in the hands of fraudsters and grifters. Here, when you spend $200 million or $800,000 on a single unit for a homeless person, you realize that that's not the cost of goods and services. That's the cost of goods, services, and kickbacks. Because how else do you spend $800,000 to build a one-room shack? So Bill Maher was talking about a railroad that we had at one point that was costing $200 million a mile. And France managed to do the same basic thing for 1/7 of the cost. Yeah. It's a lot of money in kickbacks and, shady shit. And that's where a lot of our money is going. And then they want to raise taxes, which will raise prices. And they just want more money. The more money they have, the more money they can slide out the back door to their cronies, their friends and their families. So Maher was talking about, the infrastructure is a mess. Sure. They pull a number out of their ass, right? And where does all the money go? What will we... so he brings up the point. So if it was going to cost $1.5 trillion, what would we get if we spent $1.3 trillion? What would we be saving? Because so much money is going to go to consultants, all the pigs at the trough. Maher said that kind of thinking is not a Republican idea. It's more like common sense. That's what? Third thing I say? Representing America, the center, and common sense. If we are wasting money at the rates that it looks like we are wasting money, and then also giving it away in fraud, we're doomed. There needs to be accountability. We don't need to go with the cheapest option, but we don't need to go with the most expensive option and then top it off with a bunch of consultants and kickbacks. I'm going to skip this. Really quick here. Gavin Newsom's embroiled in the Activision sexual harassment suit. Again, another attack on women. Yeah. It's a boys' club, man. Yeah, let's just get past this. Get past that. All right. So Erica Anderson had some interesting things to say. She transitioned at the age of 58. She's now 71. And she's a clinical psychiatrist. And she's noticed this rapid rise in teenagers and transgender issues. And she noticed that a lot of the teens jump from gender questioning to trans to non-binary to gay. And along the way, they battle anxiety, depression, autism, bipolar disorder, and other mental health issues. And she started to think that maybe something was going on. And then the pandemic struck. They went into quarantine. And she found herself with more and more patients. In 2019, she had 162 patients. Now, she saw a total of 373 new patients. And one of the reasons was because these kids, being disconnected from school, were on social media. And they were listening to a lot of influencers who are making their pub off of essentially advocating for transgender gender reassignment. Okay? And this is one of those things that we're not allowed to discuss. She talks about how they give the hormones and it doesn't cure them of their other psychological problems. And we see evidence, such as in Sweden, where these things have horrible effects. When you have 20-year-olds who have osteoporosis, something's wrong. There is a danger to this. But on social media, it's promoted as the life-saving device. Forget about dealing with what the real issues are. Just get reassigned. Well, what happens when that reassignment doesn't help anything? You know, a great example is when you see these rock stars like Chester from Linkin Park or Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. They became rich and famous, the goal of everybody. And yet they killed themselves. And that's the same sort of thing we're going to be facing here. When people realize that that wasn't the issue. That was the issue that somebody convinced them, but they didn't tackle the real issue. And that's all I'm asking for. Look, if you are truly were born a man but feel like a woman, I have no problem with that. But we need to discuss the options and not just reassign. California wants to regulate bacon. Go through this one really quick. One of the things that's really weird about this is that it's against the law for California to make laws that affect other states' commerce. You can't tell somebody in Iowa how to raise pigs from California. And we get 99.8% of our pork from outside of California. Yeah. And all that we get out of it is a warm, fuzzy feeling because the pigs, they're going to have a larger pen, but they're still going to die. It doesn't produce any safer pork. There's no real reason for it. It's food. But I'm sure it'll get shot down because the Constitution has a commerce clause that only Congress has the power to regulate commerce among the states. See? State laws that attempt to regulate interstate commerce are unconstitutional. What do they care? They don't care that we want our bacon. They only care about their stupid-ass agenda. I'm seriously getting to the point now where I just think we should vote no on everything. Because this kind of shit it's just stupid. So let's get into some of the best of the week. The broke back voter. Yeah. You look at those issues that are up there, and I don't really see anything you can argue with. They really have declared a war on those things. It seems as though race, gender identity, and green energy is all they care about. And those aren't really the problems that are facing us right now, are they? Green energy is decades, maybe even generations away from being viable. And that's what they care about. Gender identity? Really not something we need to worry about. Low percentage of people, we got other things to focus in on. Keep them out of women's sports because it's an unfair advantage. Yeah, that's pretty good. Kids' education. The education system is an indoctrination system. That's what it is. The news is the propaganda. The schools are the indoctrination center. The fuck are we trying to run here, folks? I like this one, Free the Bird. I don't think it'll happen. But it's time to end the censorship. I mean, the subway shooter in New York had hate-filled posts. People in Iran, the Taliban, there's all kinds of assholes out there that are advocating violence against groups of people. And they're not shut down. The only thing that's shut down is the people who are trying to expose the bullshit from the left. It's not about protecting people. It's about protecting a party. And that's it. Zookeepers scramble to vaccinate all lizards after hearing Pelosi got COVID. That looks like a beardy. Uh, Jimmy Carter arrested for putting Biden I did that stickers on gas pumps. Carter was just a fool. And again, he was another one who was not respected. The Iranians took all of our hostages, our students' hostages, and they didn't do anything until Reagan came into office, and they quickly gave them back. Joe Biden holds annual performance reviews, giving Americans an 8.5% pay cut. Can't tell me it's anything else but that. Meanwhile, the people in the top 10% are making more money, and they're fine because they're the ones whose goods are being bought for more. They're the ones who just raise their prices. But I don't get to raise my wages. Do you? Huh? You drive a forklift, you lift boxes, you put boxes on trucks for Amazon. Do you get to raise your wages? No. After being denied tattoo, sixth grader decides to have gender reassignment surgery instead. Yeah. Skewered. Liberal worried that the next COVID-19 wave might be too mild to use to push to agenda. It's coming. Illegal immigrants flee back to Mexico after being dropped off in crime-ridden wasteland. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're still doing okay because we're still seeing these waves of people coming from other countries. Once that wave stops, then we're really in trouble, I guess. Leftists warn that if they can't ban opposing viewpoints, they'll have to actually defend their beliefs. Nuclear launch codes to be stored securely on CNN Plus broadcasts where no one will ever see them. Yeah, nobody needs more propaganda. Every time somebody sees that it's propaganda, they're going to leave CNN. And I think it's too late for them. AOC drafts legislation opposing ghost guns. Ghosts don't even need guns. It's already dead. Yeah. I can hardly wait till she's gone, and yet I'm dreading the day because she's such easy cannon fodder. BLM leaders call for renewed protests this summer after finding a fantastic beach house for sale on Zillow. Yeah, that's true. That's exactly what's going on. Look, I mean, maybe their intentions were good at one point, but I think that ceased. I mean, I believe that they were a Marxist organization that just needed to hide behind something. And since they were Black Lives Matter makes sense. I don't think they ever had good intentions. But if they did, the influx of money from a couple summers ago seems to have corrupted them. And my favorite of the week right here, Biden meeting one of his 81 million voters. I thought it was 82 million, but that's awesome. Except for the fact that that's the guy that's running the country. So I had an argument with my brother. I was trying to get him to sign the death tax here in California, which would absolutely screw us over because, we stand to inherit some properties. But if they're reassessed, we're just going to have to sell them. We're not going to be able to build wealth. We're not going to be able to leave those houses to our kids. And he immediately went on the defensive. Wow. Earlier in the week, I was talking to him about the dangers of the transition surgeries and medication. And I said, hey, there was a study in Amsterdam that showed that that gender reassignment can cut your life expectancy by 50%. And he said, well, only a gun can cut your lifespan by 50%. It's like, oh, God. Trying to talk to liberals. But one of the things I texted him just to kind of end the whole thing was, when we are all stuck in one of two camps, we must agree with our tribe. But with a viable third party, we can explore solutions free of political rhetoric. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Just, we can't just subscribe to these two extremes anymore. We have to come together in the middle. We have to. We have to tell these ingrained politicians who have figured out how to become incredibly wealthy off of our taxes to stop promoting their agenda over our needs. It's time to end that. It's time to take the power back. Copious out.